The next major piping system that we're going to discuss is copper tubing. There are three different types of copper tubing that you may possibly encounter. It's types K, L, and M. Type K is the kind that you're most likely going to encounter as an irrigation technician, and it's the thickest wall of the three. That's what I'm holding now is a stick of type K. It comes in sticks and rolls. But generally, where you're going to encounter the type K copper is a connection between the city water's main supply line and their curb stop or water meter. And where this comes into play, if you're needing to calculate the amount of pressure and flow available to you for installing an irrigation system, you're going to need to know these things. And generally, the Water Systems Engineering Department will be able to tell you either A, the expected pressure and flow at that location, or they'll be able to give you the pressure in the pipe and the length and the type of the copper tubing that connects the main water line and the curb stop. And later on in another course, you'll be able to calculate that when you're installing an irrigation system. But that's why I'm bringing it up now, is more than likely that's going to be a copper connection there, and you're going to need to know how to calculate it. And one of the things that makes copper different than plastic or steel is the fact that it has a much smoother inside surface, so we can actually get water flowing at a higher velocity in copper than we can anything else. The maximum recommended velocity for copper is 7 feet per second, and that's in contrast to PVC pipe, which has an upper limit of 5 feet per second. That's not the fastest water can flow through there, but it's the fastest that you want it to go before it starts building up an unwanted amount of friction loss or turbulence in the line. Now, there's three different ways that copper can be connected. We're going to go over both of the first two types, and that is the old school way of soldering a copper connection with a torch and solder and flux, and we'll go through that. And there's a second way, and for most irrigation technicians that don't deal with copper any more than, say, 5 or 6 times a year, I would recommend you go to these internal compression fittings. This is a shark bite fitting. Here is the brand name of it. There's other types, gator bite, and I think there's a couple others now. But this is an internal compression fitting, and this is what I use. It's an elbow, but they make this in all different types of fittings. And generally, if I have to tap into a piece of copper to start an irrigation system, or I have to make a repair, I'm going to use one of these internal compression fittings just because it's quicker. These are excellent. I've never had one leak on me, but we're going to go more in depth on these kind of fittings in a later lesson. The third way that copper may be connected, and you'll probably never see this in the irrigation system, is a flare connection. And what a flare is basically a tool that just pushes the edges of this copper out just a little bit so that you have a rounded male piece that fits in the flare, and then a copper that, or a collar that holds it together, and that gives you a nice seat in there. Chances are you're never going to find that on an irrigation system. I just wanted to mention it to you so that you know it's out there.